So we're going to start this webinar. I would like to inform you that the webinar is recorded, but it's only for our internal use. It will not be disclosed. And this webinar is about what are the job opportunities in clinical research and regulatory affairs. My name is Virginie Hamtiaux, and maybe a couple of introduction about myself, and then we're going to go in the presentation. So I have a bioengineer degree, and I work in different pharmaceutical company. I started my career as a sales representative, so more in a commercial type of job. Then I moved to quality control and quality assurance when I was responsible of a small unit, microbiological unit in a quality control lab doing tests on pharmaceutical products. And then I joined clinical research. So I spent several years at different role in clinical research in a pharmaceutical company. And after that, I moved to other role in risk management, but also medical governance. And I was also an internal coach for pharmaceutical company. That was really the part of my career where I was an expert, and I decided for the rest of my career to more transfer that knowledge to person, and I decided to join ECCRT to be a trainer, a senior trainer at ECCRT, and also a business coach at ECCRT. And you will ask me, but what is ECCRT? So ECCRT is a training company, and we are really expert in clinical research training and also regulatory affair training. And our program has really the objective to develop professional to work in clinical research and or to work in regulatory affairs. We do have open course, so we have a catalog of course and anyone can register. We have also tailored course for company when we have request. And we have a specific program also that we call STAR program. We have two programs in clinical research and regulatory affairs, where it is a combination of training and internship to allow you to acquire hands-on experience. So this is a bit about me and about ECCRT. But I also would like to know who you are and who are behind the screen, because I see the name, I see initials, but I don't know who you are. So I will have a quiz for you. I would like to know if you are still studying and you will not finish, for example, before June or September 22. I will launch the poll, so you will be able to answer at the same time. If you have obtained your master, if you have obtained your PhD, or if you already have a job but would like to reorient in your career. So you should normally see the poll and you can answer, and all the results of the poll are visible in the chat column. So people are responding, and I see that we have for the moment, the figures are evolving, so I'll wait a bit to comment the results. So we see that we have 33, so more than 30% of people still studying. And then we have roughly 16% of people who have a master, 16% of people who have a PhD. And then we have also 37% of people who have a job and who would like to reorient. So a big proportion of people still studying and who will finish, and proportion of people who have a job but would like to orient, and the rest people who have obtained the master and the PhD. Then the next question for you. Do you have an idea on where you would like to work? Would you like to work in regulatory affairs? Would you like to work in clinical research, or potentially both, or none of them, or you don't know? So same principle, you can vote and your response, the proportion of the response will appear in the chat. If I check the response, we have, I would say, almost 30% of people who would like to orient themselves in clinical research. We do have 28%, I know it's going the same figure, in regulatory affairs, but we do have also 20% of people who would like potentially to do both, and 22 who don't know yet. So the good news is that you are at the good webinar, because we will talk about job in clinical research, in regulatory affairs. So that will address those questions for you. So the agenda of what we will cover. First, I will give you an overview of what is the drug development, what are high level really the different steps in developing a drug, and do a focus on activities that are done by regulatory affairs department and activities that are done in clinical research department, and associate to that the type of job that exists in those two I would say, area of activity. Then there will be a second aspect of more insight for you to start to reflect, okay, you will know about the different type of job, but it's important to know what you want to do and in which activity you want to develop yourself. So that's also a really important part in your search for a job. So that's what we will cover in the presentation, and we will have time at the end for questions. So if I start by an overview of the drug development, this slide gives you really high level the different steps to develop a drug or to develop a vaccine, or to develop device is a bit more specific. So I will focus mainly on drug and vaccine, and everything starts in the lab. So all activity start in what is called usually research and development. And in the research and development, the activity will be really to discover new molecule that potentially one day could become a drug. And that can take quite a long time. And you will see there that a lot of molecule, a lot of compound will be tested, sometimes up to 10,000 to only have one potential drug at the end. So that's really the beginning, the R&D part. After, when there is a potential compound, that compound will go in what we call preclinical. Preclinical is all the activity where the potential compound is tested on animals, because the most important aspect is really to evaluate the toxicity. And it's really during that preclinical phase that the toxicity test will be done. And only when those tests are successfully passed, I would say, then the compound can go in what we call clinical research. Clinical research is when you will start to test the molecule or the compound on human subjects. In clinical research, you have different aspects. You will always start by what we call phase 1, where the product will be tested on a small number of healthy volunteers. And there, the objective of phase 1 is really to test the safety of the molecule. And it's only when, after that first time in human, the results are satisfactory, that then the clinical research activity, the molecule will go into what we call the phase 2. Phase 2, a clinical trial, a trial where there is a higher number of participants, and where what will be tested, it's the safety, but also we'll start to test the dosage, which dose need to be the definition of the dose. And in phase 2, it's not a healthy volunteer, but phase 2 will start to enroll patients that have the disease that the drug is intended to cure. That's what is done in phase 2. And only when the result of phase 2 are satisfactory, then the product will go in phase 3. Phase 3 are really studies with a huge number of patients. So it's still the population that has the disease targeted by the drug. And there is a large number of population because safety is always monitored, but the objective of the phase 3 is also to show the efficacy of the drug. So that will be what is called efficacy trial. And for that, you need a huge number of subjects. And there will be also a close monitoring of the adverse event, also in phase 1 and phase 2, but still in phase 3, in a larger population, what are the potential adverse events that can occur. And you see there that from all the compound you had in the lab in research and development, potentially less than 5 compounds can go up to the stage of clinical research. At the end of the clinical research, all the results collected during the clinical studies will be prepared and will be submitted to the authorities to have an approval for that drug. And that's what is called the evaluation and approval, where it's really compiling all the data, building a dossier in order to have the authority approval to put the drug on the market. And after, once the drug is on the market, there are still activities because the company will continue to monitor the product when the product is used in real life. And there will be what is called phase 4 or post-marketing surveillance study, where there will be a surveillance of the drug, because that time it's a marketed drug, when it is used in the wider population and potentially concomitantly with other day-to-day drug that the people might take. That whole process can take a long time, and usually we speak during 10 or 12 years. For specific product or more complex product, it can be longer, and of course, there can be also accelerated process when it's required. But overall, these are the different steps of a drug development. So in company developing drugs, there are associated to that a lot of activities behind. Today, we will focus on activities that are done in regulatory affairs, so on the top, and in clinical. And usually regulatory affair and clinical are part of bigger departments, sometimes called R&D, but that it depends really on a different company and organization. I will not necessarily go into detail of number 3 and number 4, but maybe in a nutshell, number 4 will address more all the marketing aspects. So once you have a drug, there is also marketing and commercial activities that are done to promote the drug, or they are also what we call medical scientific liaison activities, where it's people who go externally and speak about the science behind the product to other scientific expert or to healthcare practitioner that will prescribe the product. In terms of number 3, market access are all activities supporting what is called health economic or real world evidence or reimbursement data. So it's all, if you would say, it's all the mathematics and all the modeling associated to the drug to be able to define the impact of that drug on the community, on the population, and on all the economic aspect once people start to use that drug. Those data are also used to calculate reimbursement by the government. These are number 3 and number 4, but we will not go into detail. We will go now into detail of regulatory affairs. So regulatory affairs, which is sometimes called also government affair, exist in all company or all industry which are highly regulated. It exists here, and that's what we talk about in pharmaceutical company, but it exists also in energy, in banking, in telecom. So as soon as you have a regulation that dictates the activity of a sector, usually you have in those company regulatory affairs department, because the purpose of regulatory affairs is really to make sure that the law that dictates the activity is well implemented, and also to make the connection between the company and between the authorities. That's, if I want to translate into simple language, what's the purpose of regulatory affairs. In regulatory affairs, the mission of regulatory is really to ensure that the product can be developed, can be authorized, and can be maintained on the market in line with all the applicable legislation and regulation. So that's the mission of a regulatory affairs department. Regulatory affairs people will be active in different steps of the product development. They will be active, it can be at the time of the development, it can be at the time of the registration and the marketing authorization. So you will see a slide after showing you all the place where people from regulatory affairs can work in different pharmaceutical companies. You see on the right some type of activities done by people in regulatory. Of course, there is a big part um, related to what is called submission for marketing authorization. So once you develop a drug, you need to have an authorization to put that drug on the market. That's called the marketing authorization. And depending on whether you want to distribute that drug in Europe or outside Europe or in US, you have specific process. So people in regulatory, they need to know what are the process for Europe, outside Europe and US. And then depending on the process, what they will do, they will prepare what we call the dossier, the regulatory dossier accordingly. So those activity will be really to gather all the different parts coming from the drug development, coming from the preclinical, coming from the clinical, and put all those data, compile the dossier, and they are really complete structure to regulatory dossier to then submit those dossiers to the regulatory authorities in the relevant region. There is also activity related to what is called CMC. So CMC stands for Chemistry, Manufacturing and Control. These are really all the activity associated to the drug substance. So it's all the aspect where there will be a detailed characterization of the drug. So what are the chemistry behind the drug? There will be also a detail on what are the formulation. So, or does the drug, or is the drug formulated? There will be also an aspect on all the control and on the tests that are done on the drug, as well as the specification that the drug need to meet. There will be also the result of what we call the stability tests and a quality dossier associated to the product. So all those characteristics will be described into what is called CMC. So in regulatory, people involved in CMC will have usually a scientific background, and they will be close to the product development and product manufacturing because they will be involved in the writing of all that technical dossier, that CMC dossier. Other type of activities in regulatory are related to labeling and GMP. GMP stands for Good Manufacturing Practice. So those are the guidelines and rules that a company have to follow when they manufacture a drug. So one part important is to know what are the good manufacturing practice, what are also the legal framework, and what are the duty of companies regarding to GMP. So there will be people in regulatory who will be expert in GMP and who will know those requirements, and they will also be involved in all the quality aspect of the product because there are requirements for quality control of the product, there are requirements also for quality assurance of the product, and all that will be part of those activities. There are also a specific aspect related to labeling. So once you have a drug, you'll have on the drug a label that will explain what is in the box or in the vial, so depending on the formulation. And there are specific requirements by the authority of what need to be on the label. So there are also people in regulatory who are specialized in that, who know the regulation about labeling and who will help to prepare and to define what need to be on those labels, and also to have those labels also approved by the authorities. And when there is a variation to the label, then a new version of the label needs to be submitted to the authorities. So there are specific functions in regulatory supporting all the GMP and labeling process. All those activities that I've just said are happening, I would say, at the global level when the sponsor, the company is developing the drug. But once the drug is developed, the drug needs also to be distributed in different countries and in different country. And you have in regulatory departments, so other people who work at global level or people who work in different country in what is called affiliate office. And typically those person will be responsible of the good distribution practice, meaning that depending on the country, there are rules, and depending on the type of product, there are rules to be followed on how to distribute the drug or to distribute the vaccine. And there are functions in regulatory that are responsible of those good distribution practice and to make sure that the product is distributed according to those rules. Other type of activities in regulatory will be dedicated to pharmacovigilance. So pharmacovigilance, it's a bit, if you wish, I mean, it's all the safety activity associated to the product once it's on the market. And so there are a lot of data to be monitored continuously and report to be done, analyze of those data and periodic reports to be submitted to the authorities. And so there are dedicated functions that collect those pharmacovigilance data, review them, analyze them to see if there are some signal or important information, and prepare periodic report and submit them to the authorities. The other type of activity that you could find also in regulatory are associated more to the information about the product. So there will be communication out there about the product, there will be publicity, but there are also rules to be known on what you can do when you do promotion of a pharmaceutical product and what you cannot do, or what you can do when you speak about science and you don't do promotion and what you cannot do. So there are also rule, good practice in those sectors. And so there are also people in regulatory who are responsible to check the information which is going out there. And of course, which is maybe less visible here, there is a lot of interaction between company that developing drug and the regulatory authorities for all those activities. So there is also a huge part of proportion of time of people working in regulatory time that they interact with the authority in the country or at a global level, at a European level or non-European or American level. So there are different activities in regulatory and a lot of interaction with the different regulatory authorities and bodies that represent those authorities. Another slide that was used by one of our experts in regulatory and that I use here now, it's really, so if I take that drug development slide, it's another way to present the different step in a drug development. So from the research, which is really the first point, to the end after the authorization, and you will see that every time you have a red dot, it's activities that involve regulatory affairs. So you see that regulatory affairs activities and job that exists in regulatory affairs are really diverse. It uses a lot of science. It uses a lot of people having scientific degree, master in science, different type of degree, people having PhD, because you need to be able also to write in English. And so regulatory, for me, combine really having done a scientific study or degree and ability also to write and translate that and to build dossier, but also to interact a lot with different person within the organization and with the authorities also outside of the organization. So you can see that different type of job in regulatory are really diverse and also really interesting and rich. That was for regulatory. If we now look at clinical research, this slide shows you in summary from 1 to 9 the different steps that exist in a clinical study. So I have shown you the drug development and the different type of study, 1, 2, 3, and also the phase 4. But for each study, there will be always the same activity that will happen. The first one is that the company that developed the drug will have to define the objective. What do they want to show in that clinical study? That study objective will be translated into a study design. Study design, it's okay, how many people do we know to demonstrate that objective? What type of population? Do we need to organize them in group? So that's what we call the study design. Then the objective and the study design will be translated into a protocol. A protocol is a document that describes the different activity that will happen during that clinical study. Then that protocol, before that anything happen, need to be approved by the relevant competent authority, depending on where the clinical research is conducted, and by the ethics committee as well. So it needs to have those two approvals. And it's only once the approval are obtained that the study can start. The study will start. Participants will be recruited to the study. The study will be also monitored and controlled. All data, several data will be collected during the study. All those data will be gathered in database. That database will be what we call clean to make sure some potential incorrect data are corrected before to be analysis and it's before to be analyzed. And it's only when the database is considered clean that the data will be analyzed. And based on that, there will be statistical analysis of the result and a report will be produced to translate those results. And the aim is really to show between the objective at the beginning and the result, does the result confirm the objective? And that cycle happened for every study. And it involved a lot of different functions. And that's when you see the different function around the slide and you see some in green, because some in green could be entry-level function. So a lot of people and a lot of different functions are involved in clinical research, like study physician, medical writer, scientific writer, project manager, but you have those in green that are level usually where you can start when you have less experience. And it's typically the role first of the clinical research associate. And I have a slide for that role after. Role also of clinical trial assistant. You have also, depending on how the activity are organized, you could have also people who dedicate time specifically to startup of study, and you have sometimes unit that do only study startup. You have activities in clinical regulatory affairs to build a dossier. And if I go on the left side, you have also activities, data management type of activities, which can be also accessible for junior or entry level, because there is a lot of data to be collected, to be cleaned, to be analyzed. You could have also function of statistician and medical writer, but usually there you need to have more experience. You have also at the bottom left role associated to safety with drug safety officer or pharmacovigilance associate. So there are also a lot of role in safety department to collect and analyze the safety data. And that's for the sponsor or the CRO, clinical research organization. But you have also the activity that happen where the study are conducted at hospital or at clinical research center, which we call usually investigator center, where there you have also potential role of study coordinator. So if you wish from the sponsor, you will have a role that will coordinate the clinical study, which is the role of the CRA, clinical research associate. You have also an equivalent role at the investigator site, so at the medical doctor site where the activity will be, the clinical study will be conducted, which is the role of study coordinator. And those two roles are really critical and will work a lot with each other. So what this slide is saying is that in clinical research, if you have a scientific degree, if you have a scientific background, if you like coordination, if you like data, if you like safety, there is a lot of potential role associated to clinical research. The one which is, I would say, the mostly known is the role of the CRA, clinical research associate. And the CRA is really active through the whole life cycle of the study. The CRA will be really active at the beginning of the study when the different site where the study will be conducted will be selected, which we call site selection. And there's a lot of feasibility aspect associated to that. So the CRA will be involved in that. Then there will be activity to train the center, to explain the study to the center, to make sure that the center is ready to start the study. Those are called the pre-study activities. And the CRA is heavily involved in that, is responsible for that, and will work a lot with the investigator site to prepare the site and do regular visits. Then the study will start, and that's what we call study initiation. And again, the CRA will be there to kick off the study and support the site to start the study and will help the clinical trial coordinator will help the study nurse to be ready with all aspects of the clinical research. And once the study will be conducted, the CRA will go regularly on site to review the documentation to make sure that documentation is accurate and collected as per what need to be collected in the protocol, but also according to specific guidelines that are called ICGCP. So they are detailed and strict guideline when you do clinical research. And so the CRA know those guidelines and check if the study is done according to those standards. And at the end of the study, when the center will be closed, the CRA will also be really active to close the documentation, document the end of the studies, check that there are no remaining drug in the fridge or storage, close all the activity, repatriate or destroy the drug. So the CRA will be active in that as well. So it's really a critical role, a lot of coordination, a lot of interaction with different function. So I have shown you overall the drug development, give you an explanation on regulatory affair, potentially the type of job that exists in regulatory affair, explanation about what is clinical and the type of job you have in clinical. But what is really important is to know yourself and know what you want to do. Because depending on what you like to do, though some job might correspond more to what you like. If you like a lot the data, if you like a lot the statistical analysis, maybe you will be more happy in data management type of role or and evolve to statistician type of role. If you are more a person who like a lot the interaction, you like to coordinate, you like to organize, you will be more happy in a CRA type of job. If you like the technical aspect, if you like the aspect related to science, chemistry, technology, or drug are developed, you might be more happy in regulatory, working in CMC activities. So it's really important to know what you like to do and also to have a perspective also on where you see yourself in short term, midterm, or long term, because that will help you to orient your search for job or your career development. Another aspect, so once you know what you want to do, you have also to do an assessment of, do you have the competency to work in that type of job? A competency uh, is the sum of three characteristics. First, you need to have a knowledge. So usually by your degree or by specific training that you attend, you will acquire that knowledge. And here, typically in clinical research, you will need to be trained on ICH-DCP. You'll need to be trained on the role, for example, of the CRA. So you can acquire that by training or by your degree. But you need also to have several skills, means that you do not need to have only the theoretical knowledge, but you need to be able to do the job. And that you could acquire those skills by having a certain experience or by working, by doing internship, by developing the ability to do the job. That's the skills. But you need also to have the correct attitude depending on the type of job you are. And that's really all the attitude and the behavior. And sometimes they are called also soft skills that you need to develop also depending on the job that you would like to do. So it's important to have that in mind, because depending on the job that you want to do, you will need, if you're not trained on those activities, maybe to attend some of the training and then also to develop that on the job knowledge. What we do at ECCRT, we have, in line with activity in clinical research or job in clinical research and in regulatory affairs, we have support that we can provide you. First, we have what we call career launch coaching. It's individual coaching that we can offer or work with you to really help you to identify where you want to work, really help you to identify which type of career you want to do, and or you can grow and develop yourself to reach the goal that you have. So that's type of activity that we have at ECCRT. So it's career launch coaching. So it's individual session, total of 9 hours, really to help you to define what is your career goal and also to help you to reach that career goal. But we do have also two specific programs because we realize that I have shown you the slide about what is a competency. So you need to have the theory, but you need also to have the practice. And we realized that there is a gap between people finishing university and having the degree and company who are hiring, because usually those company ask to have 1 or 2 years of work experience. But when you finish your study, you don't have that work experience. Or if you have a certain work today and want to reorient, you need to develop another set of skills and work experience. So we have developed two programs which we call our STAR program. We have one in regulatory affairs and we have one in clinical research, where you have first a training. So we train you on the aspect that you need to know to work in regulatory affairs, and all those aspects are presented on the slides. So in introduction to regulatory affairs, the drug development, the different process for marketing authorization, what all that I explained, the GMP process, labeling, good distribution practice, regulatory intelligence, regulatory information. So you have an intense training week on that. And our next edition will start this May. So that course will start the 16th of May. It's 1 week intense training from Monday the 16th to Friday the 20th. And after that course is followed by internship, because our purpose is to provide hands-on experience. So that 1 week course is followed by 2 times 6 months, two internship of 6 months, 6 months in a pharmaceutical organization and 6 months in another pharmaceutical organization or CRO organization. Because the purpose of the program is really to help you to acquire that on-the-job experience that you need to be able to apply to position in regulatory affairs. That program will start in May and the register are open and will close soon. So if you are interested by that program, let us know and we can have an individual follow-up conversation. We have another STAR program for people who want to start or reorient their career to clinical research, which is called our Junior Clinical Researcher STAR program, where there is also 1 week training, where there is training on what is the drug development, what is the regulation for drug development, what is the ICH-GCP. So you have an intense course of an ICH-GCP, an intense course on a clinical research associate job, CRA job. You have also tests at the end of those courses. You have also certificate. I forgot to mention that there is also a certificate for the regulatory affairs training. So you have that in 1 week. And then for the junior clinical research program, there are 3 internships. It starts by 2 months in the hospital because it's really essential to understand how a clinical study is managed at the investigator side point of view. So it's 2 months internship in an hospital, then 6 months in a pharmaceutical organization in clinical operation or clinical research department, really to learn the job. And then a last internship of 4 months in a contract research organization. Those two internship, pharmaceutical company and CRO, can be inverted as needed. But the first one is to start 2 months by the internship at the hospital. For that program, the next program will be in July. So we have that program 3 times per year in July, end of September and December to match the different period when you finish your study. And again, if you're interested by that one, let us know. We can have also an individual discussion. I have included here some quotes of our participant, because we have former participant in the junior clinical research program, who gave really positive feedback, because what we see is that once people have that experience on the job, all of them could find a job at the end of the program. Either they find a job in a place where they have done one of the internship because they could know the people, learn the job, and the company was interested to see them coming back after the program. Either they could find a job in another company. But all people give us the feedback that the training that we give with the certificates plus the hands-on experience during the internship really made a difference for them to be able to acquire the experience to apply for the job they wanted to do. We know you are a lot attending online, so we will not be able to address individual case, but I will ask you a question now in case you would like to have a one-on-one discussion to discuss your particular situation, to see on whether you need career coaching or information about our two program, Junior Clinical Research Program and Regulatory Affairs, you can let us know now. So I will launch the poll where you can let us know if you would like to have a one-on-one discussion about your situation. If you mention yes, then we will be able to see your name and we will be able to contact you to have a one-on-one discussion. If you don't know, you can still say maybe and you can come back to us later. Or if you don't want to know, you just click on no thanks. So that's the opportunity for you to let us know if you are interested to have a follow-up discussion about your particular situation, because we will not be able to address all individual situation online. So I give you some more time to reply on that one. So for those people who say yes, please contact me, we will contact you. And for those people who see maybe, we will just let you know that we are there should you want to have that conversation when it will be the good time for you. For the rest, what we can advise you to start your career and to start to search a job in regulatory affairs or clinical research. First, depending on what you want to do, you need to know where you want to start. You'll need to be clear on what are already your competency. And a good advice is try to target job that's where you have the competency level. So don't see don't aim too high at the beginning. And consider job where you have fair good chance depending on your profile and competency. Check also the size of the organization, because it's important. Do you want to work in a small organization, in a bigger organization? Do you want also to work in sponsor? So company who develop product, or are you more willing to work in contract research organization who work for other sponsor and who you might change job or change project more often? Uh, and based on that, really check the different job opportunity on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really these days really an important network. So really network on LinkedIn, search for job on LinkedIn. But we have put also here on the slide some site on internet where you can see a different job advertisement. So farmiweb.job, Eurofarm job. So you can also have a look at those different websites. You can, of course, always contact us. After I'll come to the question. So I give here the website of the company. If you go on our webpage, you will see all the training you offer, and you can also contact us for any question at info@eccrt.com, which is our email address. So if you have question on this presentation on our training program, go on our website and write us on info@eccrt.com. And we would like also, before to open the floor for question, we would like also to know if this session was helpful for you. So I will launch the last poll where you can let me know if the session was helpful for you, strongly agree, or agree, moderately agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. So you can know, also let us know, because it's important for us, and we use your feedback to improve as we progress as well, and as we continue to develop those sessions. So we see that majority of people agree, which is a good news, and we are happy. And also 70% agree, and around 30% strongly agree. So it's important for us to have your feedback. So thank you. And we arrive now at the end of the presentation. So I will come back on the screen, and also we'll check the chat to see if there are any questions. Let me. So either you can put yourself off mute, either you can also type your question in the chat. I'm checking. So do you have any questions? I don't see any question in the chat. Ah, yes. How much does the clinical research program cost? So if you go on our website, you have the different costs of our program, clinical research and regulatory. So, and you have also the different option for the payment. What role could data scientists have in clinical research? You do in clinical research, you have a lot of data, right? And all is based on the collection of data and analyze of those data. And so people who are data scientists, so people with a scientific background and able to interpret the data and analyze the data, could have different type of job in clinical research. And it can be either more on the side, for example, of safety or pharmacovigilance, if those data are related to the safety of the product, or it could be also other type of data and be more in the data management unit or data management department, where they will review all the set of data coming or collected during the clinical research. Then I have the question, can the traineeship be performed in the Netherlands? And another question, and I will answer both at the same time, are the program for people in Europe only or any other part of the world? So the program is for anyone, irrespectively of your location. The regulatory affairs program, the training will be face-to-face in Brussels. So the training that we will start in May, the week of the 16th to 20th of May, is face-to-face in Brussels. So depending on your location, you will be asked to travel to Brussels for that week training. But after, for the internship, we will search the internship depending on your location. So the search for internship will be a joint effort between you and between us. We have contact in industry, hospital, or CRO, but it's important also that you identify the company or hospital or CRO where you would like to work. And so we will, with you, search the internship in the area where you are located. It's the same for clinical. So clinical, the training are done in Belgium or in Leiden in the Netherlands. But for the internship can be done in different country. Of course, for for regulatory, you need to speak English. For clinical, you need to speak English plus one of the local language, because to do the job of the CRA, you will need to speak the local language. So to the question, can the traineeship be performed in the Netherlands? Yes. And that will be a joint effort between you and between us to identify the place for the traineeship. For other program for people outside Europe, yes, we will ask you to come in Europe for the training, but after, with you, we will search for traineeship in your country. There was another question. What are the skills needed to get job in clinical research? To enter in clinical research, usually it's a life science degree. Usually a master in life science, can be pharmacist, can be chemist, biologist, biomedical, neuroscience, bioengineer. That will be a scientific degree. And also a lot of in clinical research, if you start by the CRA, coordination skills, communication skills, coordination skills, being able to coordinate and organize a lot of activity, and being able to work with people from different also team departments. So you need to have some communication skills. So another question, I work in regulatory affairs for a year. I noticed that my knowledge lack regulatory vocabulary. Everyone I ask for the advice say that I just don't have enough experience yet and it will come with time. Could you advise some book or website? So that question is interesting because what I forgot to mention is that our program in regulatory affair, so we have the 1 week training and then we have the 2 times 6 months internship, but you have also the possibility to follow the 1 week training only. So what I would advise you is to register to some regulatory training, and that week between 16 to 20 of May in Brussels is accessible also for people who want to have that regulatory training only and either not do the internship or do the internship later. Otherwise, the other advice I can give you is to go on regulatory agency website and familiarize yourself with the vocabulary used by regulatory agency. Alors, another question I will take, do you get a salary during the traineeship? It depends. So depending on where you do your traineeship, some of the country have some legislation where traineeship are paid above a certain duration. So for example, if the traineeship is above 2 months, they need to pay you. It's the case in France, in Switzerland. But there are some other countries where traineeship are not paid, which is the case in Belgium or Netherlands. But sometimes the organization give a compensation. So it depends on your country and it depends on the organization. But I cannot tell you that the traineeship will be paid. It really depends. And in several cases, it's not paid. There is also another question. Do you have an advice for going from a coordinating role to project management without becoming a CRA in between? So if you want to become a project manager, follow a project management course. So there are several courses for project manager in clinical research as well. So if you visit our website, we have a project management course really oriented to clinical research. But it's true that if you have CRA experience before, it will help you to become a good project manager in clinical research. So it's not 100% necessary, but it will be much more powerful if you come for a CRA type of job to become a project manager in clinical research. If you don't want to go that route, you can attend a project management course, standalone course in project management to develop those competencies. I don't see any other questions. Let me check. I don't see any other question. André, do you see some question that I may have missed?
Okay. No, but there is a new question that showed up now in the chat.
Will there be guidance in finding a job during the STAR program? So during the STAR program, during the whole program, you are accompanied, if I would say. So you have a coach, which is myself for the STAR program, or Benedict Van Uwenhof, the head of VCCRT. So we really follow all the participants on an individual basis. So once you are in the program and once you do your internship, you have a mentor at the internship location, but we do also coach you through all the program. And it's true that when you arrive to the last assignment, we help you also to start prepare yourself to find a job. We will not search the job for you because it's important that you develop skills to find job, but we will really support you in that journey. And also with the experience you acquire during the internship, you will be much more equipped to find a job. And what we have seen is that all the participants who attend the STAR program found a job afterwards, thanks to the experience or the network or the competency that they have acquired. So that's really the feedback we have from participants. So I see that people have to leave, and we arrive to the end of this session. So There is maybe one last. Can students soon to finish their master also attend the traineeship? Yes, that's a traineeship. No. So you can start to attend the theoretical training, but we will ask you to finish your master first and after you do the traineeship. It's not traineeship in the context of your master. It's once you have finished your master and that you would like to identify and search a job in clinical research or regulatory. The training virtual, so for regulatory affairs, the training is face-to-face. It's not virtual. For clinical, some of the module are remote, but there are still some part which are face-to-face because it's important, like the CRA course and also the communication skills. They will still be, the program is not 100% remote because there are some activity where we really consider it make a difference when you do it face to face. Okay, so those were the last session. So we will close the session here because it's 2 p.m. If you have any question or that's come back, you can contact us. You have our email address info@eccrt.com, and we will be really happy to be in contact with you and to address any of your questions. So with that, I wish you a great rest of the day and hope to see you soon in our program.